Dale Beaumont and welcome to another episode of Get Published TV. This is the only dedicated show on the internet to help you to write, publish and market your own best-selling book. Now in today's episode we are going to continue on from yesterday's video where we were looking at typesetting. Now typesetting is a really important process, so if you're watching this video first, please go back and watch yesterday's video and then come back and keep watching this video. So here are some of the fundamental decisions that you need to make when it comes to this all-important process. Now before we go into them, I might just kind of mention that this is obviously particularly important to people that make the decision to self-publish their books, because when you self-publish you're actually like acting as the publisher, so therefore you're responsible for the editing, the typesetting, the layout and design, the printing or managing the printing, not doing the printing, and all the media and publicity, etc. So this would be one of your areas of responsibility. Now, I'm guessing that you won't do this yourself. You should actually engage, as I was saying yesterday, a professional to actually do it, but you need to go to them with a plan of what you want and what you don't want as well, because they're going to be working based on your instructions to them. So you really want to make sure that you've thought this out before you meet with them personally. Now, if you are an author that is going through a major publisher, that's great. You probably don't need to be responsible for this directly because the publisher will make all of these decisions for you. However, you still should at least have a bit of an idea of what you would like. You can't demand that they take you up on all those different decisions, but you want to have thought this through a little bit because you know your target market. Hopefully you do better than anyone else. So you want to have thought about what fonts do you think would work, what sort of style, what feeling do you want to have come across, and you want to then express that to your publisher and even show them some examples and say, look, here are some other books that I like the look of and feel, and I'd like to incorporate these elements. Would you mind if I have a quick conversation with the typesetter that you're going to be using so I can communicate to them, or can you just take some of these books or these photocopies to use as inspiration for when it comes to the typesetting process? So I want to empower people, no matter which option you choose, to be really involved in this process as much as possible, because at the end of the day, it's your book, and unless you put forward your own ideas, someone else is going to make all these decisions for you, and unfortunately they may be the wrong decisions. Alright, so you want to be in control is the main message. Let's talk about some of the decisions that you're going to have to make. Let's get into them right now. I'm going to kind of go through them fairly quickly. I'm only going to give about this much depth to each of the points, and we're going to cover each of them in more detail in future episodes. Okay, so let's talk about them now very quickly. The first one is with regards to your font. What font you're going to use. This is one of the most critical decisions that you have to make when it comes to the typesetting process, because if you and when we're talking about fonts, there are obviously thousands, if not tens of thousands of different types of fonts that you can choose. Most of us would be familiar, if we use Word, with things like Times New Roman, and also Arial is a very popular font as well, but there are literally thousands of different ones that you can choose. So picking the right font is really essential. There's different types that can be broken up into serif or sans serif. If you Google those terms, you can kind of get a bit of an idea of what's the difference between the two. But also, not just the font that you use, but also the size of the font. And you really need to think through who is your target market for the book. If your target market is maybe baby boomers or people that are 50 plus, then clearly you want to have a bigger font because you want to make it easier for them to read. Or if you're targeting people that are teenagers, then maybe you want to make, again, different decisions around that. And maybe you want to go with a more classical font for someone who's the market is more mature, and if they're younger, then you maybe want to go with something that's a little bit more funkier and a bit more hip. So anyway, think that through, and the best way is to look at examples of other books and see what you like and what you respond to, and also who your market responds to as well. So even if you have a few examples, and get together some people who you consider to be your target market and put different fonts and pages in front of them and say, what do you think? What do you respond to? What do you like the look of? And take those ideas on board, and then ultimately you make the final decision that you think is best. Don't always try to please everybody, because you can never please everybody. You've got to make the decision based on collectively all of that knowledge, all right? So font is big. The next one is in relation to the paragraph style. Now, there's normally two different ways in which you can do paragraphs. One is more of the classical one, which is pretty much used for most fiction books, and that is where you actually have no space between the paragraphs, but the first word of the next paragraph is indented. So most fiction books are like that. Some non-fiction books also have no spaces, but they have indentation. So that's one style. It would be normally seen as more of a classical style. A lot of new books today, and certainly my books, I actually chose to separate paragraphs with an actual space. So let me just show you what I mean here. So here there's actually no indentation. All of the words start with the margin here, but there's actually a white space between every paragraph. And the reason why I chose to do that was to break up just the monotony of heavy text. So when someone flicks through it, it doesn't look as intimidating when they see, little bite-sized paragraphs that they can read, as opposed to, other books where they look at it and go, gee, this is going to take me forever to read this because it just looks a bit intimidating. That's just my personal view. You can make your own personal view based on what you like and what you don't like. So fonts are important. Paragraphs are important as well. The other thing that we'll look at very quickly is in relation to chapter titles. What we mean by that is that every chapter would start with something, ideally something different. Now, sometimes books just literally have chapter 1, and maybe they make it in bold or make it in underline, but they don't increase the size of the font, and all the pages look pretty much the same. There's nothing that sort of stands out. But what some people do is obviously take up maybe half a page for their actual chapter title. Just turn that off. I'm kind of using a timer now to make sure that I stick to under 8 minutes. Some people use half a page, some people even use a full page, and some other people even go to the extreme of actually starting each of their new chapters on the right hand side of the page, which sometimes means there's a blank here if the text actually finishes on this side here. Alright, I've actually made that decision with my books that each new chapter starts here on this side of the page, and sometimes this page is blank, or I actually give away some free gifts in my books, which I'll talk about why I do that in a future episode. So I still use that space there, but all of the new chapters start here. So think that through. It's an important decision, because again, when someone picks up your books and flicks through, then they're kind of getting a feel for they get a bit of a sense of, do I like this book or do I not like this book? So here's another, example. This is one that looks very professional, but also looks quite, modern as well, which I like. So the main thing is go through lots and lots of books and photocopy, or just, if you own the books, then just circle them or tab the ones you actually like. And then ultimately you're going to have to make some decisions. Now, I've ran out of time on this video, so I'm actually going to continue this conversation again on the next video, because I've got a few more points that I want to go through to wrap up the some of the key things you're going to look at when it comes to the typesetting process. Okay, so again, this is important whether you're a fiction or a non-fiction, or whether you're a self-published author, or you're actually go through a mainstream publisher. Please leave us your comments below. We love you to get involved in this conversation. Let us know what you think, and we'll see you again on the next episode of Get Published TV. Thanks for watching.